Okay, so this section of notes has to do with adding or subtracting polynomials, and polynomials are expressions that look like this. So sometimes they're binomials, trinomials, sometimes you could have four terms. Okay, so those are polynomials. So adding and subtracting them. And then the other ones are multiplying two binomials. Sometimes you'll have a variable at the end, other times you wouldn't. Okay, so I'm going to do just an example of each one of them for you to refer to if you need help. Okay, so the one that I'm going to do first is problem number 40. Okay, so problem number 40. Okay, you have two sets of parentheses, and those parentheses are not squished together. They're separated by a plus sign. So really, anytime there's a plus sign here, you can basically drop these parentheses because nothing's going to change in these two parentheses. It's different when we do, and I'll do this one second, when you have a negative here. So if there's a negative here, you can't just drop the parentheses. It means this negative gets distributed to everything that is in that parentheses, which would change the signs of these. Okay, so we're going to do this one first. So number 40. What you're looking for is when we're adding and subtracting polynomials, you're just looking for like terms. And like terms would mean that their variables and their exponents are the same. Okay, so we're looking for like terms. And you always start, because proper notation is to write it with the largest exponent down to the smallest. So my largest exponent is x to the sixth. Okay, so I have a x to the sixth. I'm looking for another one that has an x to the sixth, which is right here. Okay, so I'm combining those two. Now you don't do anything with the exponents. You're just looking for like terms. You just add or subtract depending on what the symbols are in front of it. So I have a negative 7x to the sixth that I'm combining with a negative 3x to the sixth. Okay, so our rules are when the signs are the same, you're going to add. Okay, so 7 and 3 would make 10. And I take the sign of the larger number, so it's going to be a negative 10. Okay, and then all you do is bring down the like term. Okay, so you're not adding these and making it x to the 12th. Okay, this stays the same. Okay, so I'm done with that one. Okay, so now the next largest exponent is an x to the second. So that's the next one I'm doing. So x to the second, I'm looking for another x to the second. Here's another one. Okay, so I'm just combining those. So I have a 5x to the second, and I have a positive 7x to the second. Okay, so they're both positive, so I'm going to add again. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's a positive 12. And then again, remember, you don't do anything with the exponents. It just helps you group up the like terms. Okay, and I take the sign of the larger number, which they were both positive anyway. Okay, so now the only thing that I have left are the ones that don't have an exponent. Okay, so I have a negative 7 and a positive 5. So a negative 7 and a positive 5. Okay, so the signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. Okay, so 7 and 5 would be 2, and I take the sign of the larger number, so it's a negative 2. Okay, and then we are done. Okay, you can't go any further because none of these are like terms. You can't combine these numbers. You're completed. Okay, so the only way you can combine them is if you have like terms. Okay, with adding and subtracting. Okay, so now we're going to do this one. So this one's not any different other than I need to distribute this negative before I start combining like terms. So when I distribute this negative here, it's really going a negative times a negative, okay, which changes this now to a positive 4x y to the second. When I distribute this to this, it's a negative times a positive, which is a negative, okay, and then a negative times a positive, which makes this a negative. Okay, so now all of this has been changed. I can drop the parentheses, and so now I'm just combining my like terms with the first parentheses. Okay, so I'm looking for the largest. Remember, proper notation is largest exponent down to where, so largest exponent down to where there is no exponent. Okay, so back up here, my largest exponent is going to be the x to the fourth. Okay, so I'm combining this one with this one. Okay, so when a variable is by itself, we know that there's a 1 in front of it. So really this is a negative 1, x to the fourth, y to the third. And then this one's a negative 7, x to the fourth, y to the third. Okay, so again, these are like terms. Even though there's more than one term here, they're still the same. They both have an x to the fourth, and they both have a y to the third. So I'm just looking at these numbers right here. So signs are the same, so I'm going to add 7 and 1, which make 8. x to the fourth, y to the third, and then I take the sign of the larger number, so it's going to be a negative 8, x to the fourth, y to the third. Okay, so I'm done with that one. So I go back up to my expression and I'm looking for the next largest exponent, which is this one, okay, and this one. Okay, both of them are positive, so I have a positive 2 and a positive 4, so the signs are the same, so I would add. So 4 and 2 would make 6, x, y to the second, and then I take the sign a larger number, so it's going to be a positive 6x, y to the second. Okay, and then now the only thing that's left is this negative 1, and there is no other term in this one that has one that's by itself without a variable, so it just stays the same. It's not going to change. It's just going to be a negative 1. Okay. I'm done. None of these are like terms, so that's as far as I can go. So that would be my answer to that one. Okay, so that's the adding and subtracting polynomials. Do not get confused when you're looking at these words that are on the worksheets. They say add, but sometimes you're not adding because you have positives and negatives. So just ignore that, please, and just pay attention to the signs that are there, whether you're adding or subtracting. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to do number 37. So number 37 basically fits into both of these objectives, okay? So, and then I'm done. So on this, notice there's no plus or minus in between. So that means we're not adding and subtracting, we are multiplying. So you probably have been told to use the distributive property, and if not the distributive property, then it's just saying using the FOIL, which is first, outer, inner, and last. Okay, so you are going to take this first term and you are going to distribute it to both things that are in the other parentheses. Okay, so distribute means to multiply. So we multiply the whole numbers. So 7 times 5 would make it 35. And we add our exponents. So really this is x to the 1 with another x to the 1. Okay, so x to the 1 plus x to the 1 would make it x to the second. Okay, so now I take this and I distribute it to the next one. So whole number, I'm going 7 times a positive 4, so 7 times 4 would be 28. Okay, I have an x to the 1 and a y to the 1. Well, they're not like terms, so I can't add them together. So I just write them next to each other as multiplication, because that's what you're doing. When we multiply, we actually add, but I can't add them because they're different variables, so I just leave them as multiplication. Okay, so we're done distributing 7x. So now you're going to distribute the 8y, just like we did the 7x, to the other parentheses. So this is being distributed to both of these. Okay, so 8 times 5 would make it 40. It's a positive because there's no negatives in this expression. And then this is the same thing as the last one. So we have a y and we have an x. We can't combine them, but when you write them alphabetical. Okay, so x comes first and then y. Okay, and the reason why you do that is because potentially, like we have right here, we have like terms that we're going to end up combining. Okay, then the last one, so 8 times 4. So 8 times, oh, somebody's popping in here. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry. It was after school. So 8 times 4 would be 32. Okay, and then I have a y1 and a y1, so how many y's do I have? Remember, you add them, that would be y to the second. Okay, so now at this point, we are where we were at in the other one. So what we're looking at is we have adding and subtracting, and we look to see if any of them have like terms, okay? Like here, we got down to where there was no like terms, and then the same thing here. But on this one, you have the two in the middle that have like terms. They both have an xy. Okay, so this stays the same, this is going to stay the same, but this one will change to something else. Okay, and again, we still write them in descending order and alphabetical if there's multiple letters. Okay, so the 35x squared stays the same. Okay, but you're going to add these two numbers. Okay, so that would give me 68. And when we add, remember, we don't do anything with the variables. Okay, that's only when we multiply. When we're adding, we just look for like terms and we combine the numbers that are in front. So that would be 68xy. And then just bring this one down. Okay, so now we are done because none of these are like terms. So we can't go any further with adding and subtracting. Okay, and you're done. Okay, so your job for the Mad Minutes to get back in there and do all the ones that I didn't do. Okay, plus write in the answers of the ones that I did do for us to grade tomorrow in class. Okay. The only thing I want to explain on number 38 is the way that it was written. Okay. This one is actually an example of number 39. Okay. So it says subtract this from this. So really on 38, and I'm just telling you how to write it. I'm not doing it. So on 38, you actually write this one first. Okay. So it's a negative 5x to the third plus x in parentheses. And you're subtracting that from that one so that it's really flipped. Okay, so remember, when you have a negative that's in between, you have to switch the signs of each of those before you can combine the like terms. So all of those that say subtract this from this, that's what they're doing, is there's a negative in between. So you'll change the sign of that one. Okay, good luck. Come see me if you need any help.